Might help if I turn the microphone on. Good morning. Good morning from Canton, NC. Wow. Good morning from Nottingham, England. It is 11 a.m. Well, it's 3 minutes past 11 on a sunny Wednesday morning. Thank you for joining me today. What better way to spend your next half an hour or so talking and listening to me talk about broken time jazz drumming, which is what I was just trying to play there, what I was just experimenting with there. So, first of all, a very, very big thank you to my Patreon subscribers. I don't say this enough in my videos, to be honest, but I have some Patreon subscribers who are really helping to support this channel, and I can't say how much I appreciate that quite enough. So thank you guys. You know who you are for supporting this channel. Broken time jazz drumming is the topic of an upcoming book that I am working on. And I've been talking about this in the past when I've done some live streams on this, and I've had consultations with John Riley, among others, to really put a lot of effort into this book, and it's coming along nicely. And live streams like this help me to really test out the ideas and talk about them and make sure everything is working correctly and the concepts all work, as that book is an ongoing process. So, for those of you that aren't familiar, broken time jazz drumming is kind of a substyle of jazz drumming generally, in which we get rid of repeated patterns, ostinatos. If you are perhaps quite new to jazz drumming, your experience of jazz might be this. This is an ostinato, which means a pattern that is repeating. Although very simple, this is also an ostinato. This hi-hat on beats 2 and 4 of the bar. So our ostinato, our repeating pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This provides our sort of framework. And then we improvise, so-called comping, within that on the bass drum and the snare drum. Or perhaps an even simpler method, we add the bass drum into the pattern, so that's just playing on all 4 beats of the bar, feathering that bass drum, and we just improvise with the snare drum. And that is what a lot of people think of when they think of jazz drumming. And that is absolutely vital. I'm not here to say that is bad, that is not good enough, that is not as good as broken time jazz drumming, not at all. That has been the backbeat, the heartbeat for an awful lot of amazing jazz tunes. That is an important step, and it is an important area of jazz drumming. But broken time jazz drumming specifically, breaks away from that. It comes from the early 1960s and extended out through the 70s with the post-bop and latterly the ECM movement with drummers like Tony Williams, Elvin Jones, Roy Haynes, latterly Jack DeJohnette, Jon Christensen, who sadly died this year, and is found today in the playing of people like Eric Harland, Mark Juliana, Jeff Tain Watts, people like that, although Tain is a little bit more traditional at times. But basically it's characterized by improvisation, the timekeeping happening across all 4 limbs simultaneously. So in the intro, when I was waiting for this to start, I was playing with a few ideas and getting a bit carried away, actually, which is why I started a few minutes late. But we might have something like this. Okay, that's an improvised segment of what we can call broken time drumming, where there was no repetition. Okay, my bass drum wasn't just playing a feather pattern. I wasn't just playing that traditional Spangalang pattern. My hi-hat wasn't just on 2 and 4, and my snare drum was just as involved as it always is. So the time feel is a kind of implied time where the beat is felt, but on the whole, there's no individual part of the kit that's keeping a beat, right? That beat is implied across all 4 limbs in an improvisational way. Now, to me, I love it because I love improvisational music. I love jazz. I love improvising. I love the creative aspect of improvising. The problem is, because it is inherently improvisational, it becomes very, very difficult to practice. How do you learn and practice a style that is inherently improvisational? And this is what my book, working title, Broken Time Jazz Drumming, seeks to address. And this is something I spent a long time discussing with John Riley and others to try and nail the concept, because on the one hand, it's a very improvisational style that's very reactive and expressive. But on the other, we need to be able to learn it and study it like anything else. So how do we combine those two things? And this is the work in progress that is the book. But it's something I'm going to start expressing throughout the course of these live streams, starting with today. And one of the answers comes down to working with motifs. Okay? Improvisation, and this is an absolutely vital concept for all of music, not just jazz drumming, not just broken time drumming, but all of music. Improvisation is not random, okay? We have to make a clear-cut distinction between improvised and random. Nothing I just played was random, but it was improvised. And there is a very crucial difference there. So let's cut right to the chase and let me show you what I'm talking about. Broken time jazz drumming, as I have been attempting to demonstrate and as I am studying and developing, gives an effect, okay? It creates an effect of all four limbs improvising completely at will to give the time feel. But that effect, like all good effects, is generated by a very strict methodology. We are creating an effect of broken time jazz drumming. And we are doing that by way of using motifs. So let me show you what I mean. Let's pick a number. Good morning from Milan, Italy. Well, truly global. Good morning. Hello, Italy. Thank you for being with me today. Let's pick a number. Let's go 5, okay? So let's pick a 5-beat motif. What this means is we are coming up with a phrase that incorporates all four limbs, cymbal, bass drum, hi-hat, snare drum, and plays a 5-beat pattern. So one you just saw me playing there was this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that is a phrase that I have studied, that I have learnt. It actually comes from a Jack DeJohnette transcription, where I was studying the transcription and found some of his motifs that he was using. So this, you can thank Jack DeJohnette, one of my absolute favourite drummers and idols. You can thank him for this phrase, this motif. It is 5 beats long, and it incorporates the ride cymbal. Okay? So you can hear there, if we isolate that ride cymbal, a 5-beat pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It repeats every 5 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Likewise with the other limbs. The whole phrase works together to express 5 beats of time. Why is this so powerful? Well, what happens if we take a 5-beat motif and we play it in 4/4? Well, of course, we get this polyrhythmic effect, right? That motif rolls over the bar line and takes 5 bars to resolve. We get this polyrhythmic phrasing effect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4. Resolve back on the 1 again. I just played that 5-beat motif 5 times in a row. I didn't change it. I didn't vary it. I didn't improvise within it. I just played, I just played that same 5-beat motif 5 times in a row, but in the context of 4/4, and it generates a broken time effect. That's not to say that is all we play, but it starts to generate the effect we are looking for, because that 5-beat ride cymbal pattern rolls over the bar line 5 times in 4/4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Starts again after the 5th bar, right? So we are generating this broken time effect by using an odd-lengthed motif in 4/4. Now, you may be thinking, hold on a minute, I thought you said this was an improvisational style without patterns, and you've just shown us a 5-beat pattern. Yes, of course. Remember we said that improvisation is not random. We have to have some kind of material to work with. I am improvising right now when I speak to you, okay? I have not scripted this. I've not rehearsed it beforehand. I am improvising the words I say to you, but they're not random. They're not scripted, but they're not random either. I'm able to do this like you are in your native languages because you understand the rules of language, you have vocabulary, you understand sentence structure, right? So motifs like this give us vocabulary that we can use in whatever way we like. It starts to get more interesting when we add a second motif. Let's pick another number. We've done 5. Let's do 7. Let's be a little bit more adventurous. Let's pick a 7-beat motif and see what we can work with. So one of the 7-beat motifs I have been working on recently. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Same sort of thing. We get a 7-beat ride cymbal pattern. I think that's it. Yeah. And the rest of those limbs are incorporated into that pattern. Now, as I said, a lot of these motifs come from listening to what other drummers of this style play, listening to people like Jack DeJohnette and Eric Harland and studying the motifs and themes and phrases that they are using. So they're not random. I've not come up with all of these myself. These are sort of inspired by some of the great drummers that I've been listening to recently. And this is an instance of a 7-beat motif. So this entire phrase constitutes 7 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All of those limbs play within that bar, and they repeat every 7 beats. Now, same thing. If we play this in 4/4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, etc. That rolls over the bar line, and it will take 7 bars, to resolve. The 8th bar will be the same as the first bar. Once again, that 7-beat motif phrased in 4/4 generates this broken time effect. Okay? What happens now then if we are comfortable with both of those motifs and we are able to combine them together? So I will play the 7-beat motif followed by the 5-beat motif. So the 7 first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now the 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 7. 5. 7. 5. Put both together. Etc. Right? Generates this really nice phrase. Quick maths, 7 plus 5, it's 12 beats long, aka it's 3 bars long if we feel it in 4/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. And then bar 4, we would start it again. That kind of doesn't matter as much at this stage because I'm trying to get across to you this concept of working with motifs. We generate the broken time effect by working with 2 odd length motifs next to each other. What if we added one more to that so we can see how far we can take this? Let's add a 3-beat motif to that. I know I'm not going into much detail into the motifs themselves, but I'm talking concept at this point. So let's think of a 3-beat motif. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. We can quite clearly hear that 3-beat ride pattern. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Ding, ding, da, ding. Ding, ding, da, ding. And the snare drum is kind of hitting this almost a dotted pattern, isn't it? Yeah? So we've developed this 3-beat motif based on this sort of dotted pattern. I'll talk more about this in depth later, but for now, we've got a 3-beat motif. It's a phrase incorporating all 4 limbs that is 3 beats long. Let's add that to our previous combination then. So we've got a 7, followed by a 5, followed by a 3. 7, 5, 3. That gives us 15 beats total, right? So we've now got a 15-beat, stay with me, we've got a 15-beat combination, and we're going to phrase that in 4/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1. Did you lose the pattern? Quite possibly, right? At a 15-beat combination, your listener is not going to keep up with what you are playing, but we have generated that broken time effect, okay? And that broken time effect has been generated by the use of these motifs. Now, I want to address something that I've been thinking about and that some of you keen-eyed listeners may have been thinking about. Isn't this cheating, right? Aren't we trying to learn an improvisational style where all 4 limbs are improvising to generate the time feel, and you're just using odd length patterns to generate that we can't follow? Yes, but switch it around. Broken time jazz drumming is the use of odd length motifs, and it sounds like it is a completely improvised style. When you look at the pioneers of this style, somebody like Tony Williams, somebody like Elvin Jones, they didn't set out to improvise completely freely in that jazz sense. What they started out doing was thinking, well, what if I start playing with 5-beat phrases? What if I start playing with 7-beat phrases and 3-beat phrases, and I combine those together in 4/4? And the broken time effect is developed in that way, and we listen back to that and go, gosh, they're just improvising completely freely. Well, no, the motifs came first, right? Conceptually, the post-bop era of the early 1960s was an era of exploration, and one where the drummer became a more prominent member of the band. So Elvin Jones was part of that band, right? He wasn't just the background guy anymore. He was part of that band. Same with Tony Williams. They're exploring the rhythmic concepts available to them. And one of the concepts that arose from that period was a heavy use of odd length phrases. So that carried over into the time feel. 5-beat phrases, 7-beat phrases, 3-beat phrases, all used in combination. Now, the book that I'm working on, I analyze a Jack DeJohnette transcription. It's a much more modern one. It's not back from the 60s. It's a much more modern one, and it's around about 28 bars of transcription. And it's absolutely fascinating because I'm looking at it now on my music stand, 25, 26, 28 bars. And from bar number 3 to bar number 28 is entirely made up of 3, 5, and 7-beat motifs. So if I read out the first few bars, these are the motifs. It goes 3, 3, 3, 5, 3, 3, 5, 5, 7, 5, 5, 3, 3. This is how he's thinking. This is how one of our great jazz drummers is thinking about his playing. So let me play that for you. This is what it sounds like without me counting anything. So that was 14 bars. And to all the world, it sounds like I'm improvising that, right? It sounds like I'm generating that phrase, and it sounds like Jack was generating that phrase completely on the fly. Until you look at the transcription I've got here, where I've bracketed the individual phrase. Here's a 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This is a dotted quarter note rhythm, right? 1, ah, 1, ah. That bass drum is playing a dotted quarter note rhythm. Let's change that to the snare drum. Okay, now let's improvise between the bass drum and the snare drum on that dotted rhythm. And suddenly we get the first 8 bars. 4 bars, sorry. You can start to see it's entirely made up of these 3-beat phrases. It's absolutely fascinating to be able to see it. And you'll be able to see this when I've finished, when the book is finished and everything, because I know I can't show you this at the moment on the camera. But this entire transcription, 3, 3, 3, 5, 3, 5, 5, 7, right? Those motifs are at the heart of what Jack DeJohnette is feeling that generates this time feel. There's a really interesting 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put that together and speed it up a little bit. And suddenly, it starts to sound like that broken time effect that we're going for, made up entirely of 3, 5, and 7 beat motifs. So, let me slow down for a minute, because I'm getting excited, because I love this stuff. How does this help you? If you're sitting here thinking, yep, you're talking a load of fancy sounding stuff, but how does that actually help me? Well, if this is the sort of thing that you want to get into, we need to start training ourselves to thinking in terms of motifs that are of a different length to the bar in which you are playing. So if we're playing jazz in 4/4, there's a very simple 4-beat motif. Because it's a 4-beat motif and we're playing it in 4/4, that's always going to sound really pedestrian. It's always going to sound nice and neat, and it's not going to move. It's not going to generate any tension. Let's take that same motif, very, very basic, and let's add a 5th beat to that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now if we're feeling that 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Pretty tough, right? But that's how we start to develop this feel. So I would suggest starting in 3s, first of all. Nice and simple. Think of a 3-beat motif. I did 1. You can come up with any sorts of things yourself, but we're using the ride cymbal, the hi-hat, the bass drum, and the snare drum. We're in a swung 8th note rhythm, and we're coming up with a 3-beat motif. 1, 2, 3. Practice that so you can execute it. Feel it in 4/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay. Oh. Now, where have I heard that interesting 5 before? Yes, absolutely. The secret's out. Where was I? Yes, 3s. We are working with 3s, but we're feeling them in 4/4. Now, if you practice that enough, it becomes part of our vocabulary. If it's part of our vocabulary, we can use it wherever and whenever and however we like, right? So we might be grooving away. Did you hear it in there? There it was twice. Right, you can hear it in there when you're listening out for it. If it's part of my vocabulary, I can use it. So now, let's think back to what I was doing earlier with the 5 and the 7. Just to remind you, I know it's difficult to follow these, but let's listen to the 7. Okay, within that little segment, did you hear the 7? Did you hear the 3 I played at the end? Let's think about that 5 now. Okay, so we've got all of these motifs, the 7, the 5, and the 3. I'm comfortable with those, so I can improvise with them and use them within part of a larger framework. So at this stage, I'm coasting, right? I'm not really sort of making a statement until there was the 7. 3, 5, 7. Seven, 3, 5, 7, 3. 7, 5, 3, 3, 5, 7. So, okay, that's really hard to do, talk at the same time. But I'm trying to give you a snapshot into how I'm conceptualizing that, right? Because I don't believe it is helpful to you for me to sit down and tell you every individual stroke I'm playing. If you know the concept as to how I built that, you can then generate your own, and you understand the same pattern, the same process to how we arrive at that effect. Now, as an analog, right? We're all comfortable with this. Okay? If we improvise in that context, we might have something like this. Now, what you are hearing there is my own particular vocabulary. These are all phrases that I have learnt and picked up and practiced over the years. So even something very simple like this. It's a simple bass drum variation, right? It's a bass drum improvisation. Well, because you are probably all very comfortable with this, you're not really thinking about that. But of course, you wouldn't say it was random. There's nothing random about that. I am choosing the most appropriate piece of vocabulary based on what I want to say within that style. And it's the same thing here. Just because we're in a slightly different style, a different context, the concept doesn't change. I'm not randomizing everything. I'm still working with phrases and vocabulary and motifs and themes. I'm just applying them in a different way. So one of the fascinating things about this Jack DeJohnette transcription, his theme, what I've called his rhythmic motif, is that dotted quarter note pulse. So for those of you that aren't familiar, a dotted quarter note contains 3/8 notes. Gives us that sort of polyrhythmic effect, right? So if we listen to some of those Jack DeJohnette phrases again, we start to hear that rhythm, boom, boom, ba, ba, boom, ba, 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 boom, boom. We hear that rhythmic phrase occurring again and again. That quarter note pulse is at the heart of all that phrasing. So I'm using the rhythm, or perhaps more accurately, Jack was using that rhythmic motif to inform the phrases he was playing. So if we know we're trying to play this rhythm, we can start applying our own vocabulary, our own coordination, our own facility at playing the drums to voice that in interesting ways. So this time, let's voice that between the bass and the snare. Now let's break up that repetition, so we're improvising which bass drum, whether the bass drum or the snare drum plays it each time. Okay? That's the basic sort of rhythmic skeleton of what's going on. Then we can start improvising with the ride cymbal and the hi-hat. Now that hi-hat starts to creep in. And once again, we start arriving at that same broken time effect that we're working towards. So, the core concept here is that we need material with which we can improvise. As we said right at the very beginning, improvisation is not random. If you are playing randomly, it's going to be awful. And it's probably impossible anyway, because randomness, let's not get too scientific, but true randomness doesn't really exist. We are improvising with a set of material, right? You can't improvise from nothing. Don't believe that anybody that is a top-level improviser is just generating stuff from nothing. They're not. They are using their experience, their vocabulary, their own particular phrasing to speak in a way they want to speak. So when you see somebody like Eminem freestyle, right? Over the years, I'm not an expert in it at all, but if you were to analyze Eminem's freestyling over the years, you would find similarities. You would find particular sentence structures and rhyming structures, particular vocabulary occurring again and again, and he is just a master at stringing them together and applying them to the situation. It's the same thing listening to somebody like Jack DeJohnette, right? We use the material, the vocabulary that is available to us to improvise at the particular time. So, I'll leave it there because I've been blathering on for 33 minutes now. Think in terms of motifs, right? We are generating this broken time effect by using motifs of an odd length and combining them together. Once we are comfortable enough with that, they become part of our vocabulary and we can start improvising with them a lot more freely. But that improvisation is the last leg of the ladder, the last step of the ladder after we have worked on and internalized the material that makes up the language of jazz drumming. So we heard some phrases like this, the 5. What if we were to take that 5 and just start to vary it slightly at the end? Or I've changed the beginning there. It's still based off that same 5-beat motif, but it's a variation on that. There's that 7 again. So that's all I have to say on the matter for now. I will do more of this as this concept develops. As I say, this is a work in progress. This is all research and study and development into the Broken Time Jazz Drumming book that I've got on the go. I would love to hear your feedback on this, and thank you guys for joining me today. Especially on a Wednesday morning to talk about jazz drumming for 35 minutes. It's an absolute pleasure. So thank you once again to my Patreon subscribers. I really, really appreciate the support. And for those of you that like what I do and want to support the channel, please consider Patreon. The link's in the description below. Check out my website for everything I do, sessions, video lessons, my books, my music, anything else. It's all on the website. And let me know what you think of this material. Thanks very much, guys. And I look forward to seeing you on the next live stream. Practice hard, work hard. Cheers.